Hey guys, welcome back to my full Mern Stack masterclass, um, where we are building an entire application, web app, not mobile app, um, and we are using the Mern Stack. That is Mongo ExpressJS, MongoDB ExpressJS, React JS, and um, Node.js, of course. So we're going through the whole process. We're still on the back end, still developing the back end. We have a little bit more to go on the back end. So I think in this episode, we're going to finish off the back end, get that all set up. We're going to test it. I'm going to go through JSON and what that is, or not what that is, but sort of what it looks like and the how it interacts with Node when you're using Mongoose to interact with MongoDB. Mongoose is a NPM package that we use to connect to a database, to our database. In this case, I'm using my local MongoDB, which I downloaded, and I will put the link in the description on how to do that because there is a great blog on that explains it pretty well. But before we get into all this, just want to ask you if you don't mind, subscribe to my channel because this is a video series. This is not all in one video. So there's two videos previous to this one that are already up. And I believe there will probably be one, maybe two more after this, dealing with the majority of the front end. I think I'm going to get into the front end in this video, but I'm not going to finish it all in one video. It would just be too long. So if you don't mind, go ahead and subscribe down below, and hit the bell icon for all notifications because that will let you know when the next video comes up, so you can finish following along with me. And also, if you find this video helpful or any of my videos helpful, then just leave a thumbs up below. I would appreciate that. I don't proclaim to have all the answers, but I just offer a different perspective on how to do things. I mean, you can watch 100 coding tutorials and pick up a little detail from every single one of them. You may not learn every single thing there is to learn in one video. That's very unlikely, but and that's how I learned, because I do have a degree, but I am also self-taught as well. That's how you learn. You just pick up a little bit here, a little bit there. So anyway, subscribe or like or whatever, or don't. It's cool, but I appreciate you if you do. And also leave suggestions of things you'd like to see. I mainly deal with React and the Mern Stack, but I also deal with PHP, front-end design, HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, Material UI, Sass a little bit. So anyway, all right, let's jump into this. So I have my terminal, and actually I'm going to go ahead and open a second terminal because I forgot to start my MongoDB database. Oops. So let's go in there. So we go, let's see if I can remember, CD. This is on Windows, by the way, program files. Now, when you install MongoDB locally, this is where they put it, and this is how you have to set it up. MongoDB/server/4.2/bin, and then once you're in there, you just type Mongo. Right, and then it goes, and then you say use, I think I called it test to switch to your database. I'm pretty sure I called it test. We'll figure it out in a sec. You can always go back in and change it. All right, so let's cd into the project, Mern Stack app. Okay, and let's open it in VS Code by code space period, and that'll bring up Visual Studio Code. Alrighty. No, I called it student database because this is like a student tracker app. So that is use student database, and it is case sensitive. So, all right, let me close that. So now let's jump right into it. We're going to add another folder. Usually it's called model, and then we're going, excuse me, in there we're going to have a new file called students. There's a lot of files called students, but they're all in their own directory. So we have our API file is students, config is keys, yeah, whatever. So there's a lot of them. Okay, so here is our model. Here is where we define how our information is going to be stored in our Mongo database. In this case, it's local Mongo database, but it works exactly the same when you're using the real deal MongoDB online. The only difference is you would change your config keys.js file. This right here would change. That's the only thing that you would have to change. So yeah, the way we're building this, I'm using local, but when if I were to go in to deploy this, which I'm not going to, but if I were to, this is what I would change to that MongoDB connection string, and see the first video on where and how to get that. And I guess I'll leave a link in the description. I will try to remember. Hopefully I do remember. All right, so now we need Mongoose, because that's how we're setting up our schema. So Mongoose has a lot of things, but it has a way to connect to the database, and it also has things to build schemas. So equals require, put a space there, require quotes Mongoose. Because this is a package, you don't have to use // you only use that on things that you create. Then we're gonna create a new class, basically schema, or a new instance of a schema, mongoose dot schema, and there you go. And now we're going to build our schema. Okay, const, we're going to call this student schema equals this. I'm sorry, this is our new instance, our new schema instance. So we brought it in up here, and then we're declaring a new, basically like a class. So parentheses, curly braces, open it up. Now I guess we'll just do name. So these are all key value pairs basically, and the value is an object. For Mongoose, we give it a type, which will be, it's going to be a string because it's somebody's name. We'll say it's required with the keyword required. Okay, I didn't spell that right. Required, nope, not required pass, sorry. Required is set to true, that's a Boolean value. Let's see, let's do, what else, name, I don't know. Let's do contact info. Now, something here a little interesting that I wanted to throw in here to give to you guys. Let's do, I'm sorry about this. I thought I got rid of this, but it's back. It's really annoying. Contact info. So instead of giving it a type, okay, we are going to give it, I'm sorry, we don't need these opening and closing curly braces. Instead of giving it a type and anything else like we did for the name, we're going to give it, we're basically going to create nested JSON data. So when it stores, it's not, 10 things like this that could all be put into one. Okay, so we're going to do, contact info. Okay, so contact info. And what we do, for Mongoose at least, we're going to contact info, okay, equals new schema. Oops, schema. Why am I not spelling that right? New schema, parentheses, quotes, or I'm sorry, curly braces, and then we're gonna do, we'll say email is an object type string, got to be capital, by the way. Let's just do that. That's fine. Email, we'll say student. Oops. Student ID will be set to. We'll set that to type. We'll set that to a number value. So the whoever's entering, and I'm sorry, you need a comma here to separate these. So whoever is entering the student's information, they'll just come up with a number. Normally you wouldn't do that, but in this instance, I'm just going to show you. And I think that's all we'll do. That's enough. So that's, oh, one more I should add here. Date enter, just for consistency's sake. Type is a date, and it will be required set to true, okay? And the default value, which with the default default keyword, will be set to date.now. So basically, whenever the new student is entered, it's going to save the date automatically in a timestamp of when the student was entered. You know, I mean, obviously there's a million other things you can add here, but I don't want to become redundant. I just want you guys to get a good idea of how it's done, you know, and how you would do it. And don't forget, this is our nested JSON data, which it's going to pull in this new schema of these, okay? Hopefully. Hopefully it should work. All right, so now let's export this module. .export equals students, give it a name, equals mongoose dot model. No, I spelled model wrong. That's modal. It doesn't matter. Students as students, and then the name of our schema, which is student schema. Okay. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So, you know, you have your key value pairs in our nested JSON. Hopefully it's not too crazy. By the way, in case you didn't know, I like to have my integrated terminal in VS Code. I like to have it on the right hand side. That's just me. You can right click here and say move panel to bottom or whatever. Okay, so let's save that and let's close that and let's go to our routes because I want to change one other thing. So the last time we set this up, let's get rid of that. Well, not entirely, of course. All right, so we're going to get rid of, no, sorry, just this object in here. Okay, and we're going to say request.body. It's a little bit easier. It's not ideal, but it's the way it's a way it can be done. So this way, it'll just take our entire request.body and enter it into the database. Okay. And one more thing I wanted to do, and this will kind of kill two birds with one stone. I just wanted to add another file. We'll call it info.json. And in here, I just wanted to give you a quick rundown. I do have a video about JSON, and I will link in the description, just sort of going over the basics. It's Learn JSON in 10 or 15 minutes, I forget which. There's not a lot to learn, and I'm sure anybody who's done web dev for a fair amount of time would realize that it's pretty simple. However, in JSON, let's take our student model here. So we have a name, contact info, and then the date entered, which by the way, we don't have to enter. We're just entering name and the contact info. So let's do name, double quotes, oops, and then a colon, and then double quotes again. Right? Oh, I'm sorry, geez. You got to open up curly braces. Name. There, see how it turned color in VS Code? And I'll show you a way to validate it as well. So we'll say Ted Smith, and then comma, and then we're going to do contact info. And then here we open up curly braces and we do email. Here we'll say tedsmith@gmail.com, comma, and what was the other thing? Oh, student ID, student ID. How did I spell that? Student ID, okay. Student ID, and then colon, and then since this is a number, you just type it out, no quotes, okay? And in fact, we can go to, I forget what the actual website is called, but we'll look at it real quick. I believe it's Json Validator or something or other. I forget what it is. Just Google it. Just type in Json Validator, JSONlint.com. That's right. And we paste in our stuff, and hopefully it's right so I don't embarrass myself, and it's valid JSON. So opening and closing brackets, quotes, double quotes, has to be double quotes. If it wasn't, and it was just single, I am 99% sure it wouldn't be valid JSON. Yeah, see, error. So it's got to be double quotes, colon, and then, and this could be true. Let me just change this so it doesn't error. This could be the Boolean, a number. Oh, okay, I messed that up. Sorry about that, folks. Let me just fix this real quick. Okay. Valid JSON. Like I said, number, string, number, Boolean. This could be even another object. Actually, technically it's an array, but whatever. You get the idea. So you can play around with this. But this is your basic JSON format. Okay, let's test our data. So over here we're going to go nodemon. What the heck is going on here? Hey guys, now that we have pretty much the entire backend finished, we have to test our routes just to make sure they're working. I mean, you don't have to do this, but it's highly encouraged. Sorry. So like I said, this is Postman, and we use this to test our routes. As you can see, I already kind of did. So I'm going to clear it and show you how to do it. So, once you're all installed, it's going to be localhost colon and then our port, which is where we assigned it in here. Oh, actually, let me, I forgot my MongoDB database stopped for some reason. I'm not sure why. Give me a sec just so I can MongoDB, so I can /server /4.2/bin and then Mongo. Okay, because we're going to be testing a post route, so hopefully so we want to make sure that's running. Anyway, so localhost colon 5000 is what we set right there, because right now we're testing it, so we know it's going to be 5000. And then our route API/students, which is right here. This is where we assign the route. Now, what's in the students.js file that's in routes/API, that's why we left this blank. It's a route, but the actual route is set right here. And of course, we brought it in from that file path right there. And then that's this. That's why we exported the router. It's basically a cleaner way to do it, because you wouldn't want to have all these routes, stuck in your server.js file, especially when you add something like authentication where you're getting users. You would have a whole nother, if you had like a user registration form /login, you would have a whole other set of these routes for that, for someone to register as a user. And then it will go in here, probably routes. But anyway, and I might add that to this project at a later date. But right now we're just doing the basics of it. Anyway, so oh, you know what? One other thing I just want to show you. In previously, one thing I was getting an error because I forgot this in a promise. So students.find returns a promise. We're then going to take that, whatever that is, those students, and we're going to give it in a JSON format, and the students is what we're giving. Okay, and then we do a dot catch for any errors. But I had forgotten to add this as a dependency, or I'm sorry, as an argument um, to be passed to the JSON. So I was getting an error. So I didn't include that in the previous version, but um, that needs to be there. For the get routes, it's different for the other ones, as I explained before. Yeah. Okay. Oh, one other thing, and all this, I'm gonna keep all this. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put all these into my GitHub, which I'll link in the description below. Um, so one thing I added that I had forgotten initially was our body parser, which you don't need anymore necessarily, because Express has its own body parser, but I'm used to using it, and body parser still works, so it's fine. This is something that we don't need right now, but we will once we start doing the front end. Um, we will need that. It's basically to do with cores. If you've done anything with JavaScript where you're accessing an external API, or I'm sorry, an external URL, cores will block you. And this is just one of the methods in which you can use. As you can see, this will be our address for our front end. And in order to get the front end running and also the back end at the same time, we have to use something called concurrently, which we're going to set up in the next video. Okay, so anyway, with that out of the way, let's test our routes. So this is a basic get route. Just get everything. So we're going to send it, and we get an empty array because there's nothing in there. And we get a 200 response, which means everything's A-OK. Headers, there's not really a lot of headers because we're not doing any authentication, which is not the same as authorization, sorry. Normally in a header, that's where you would include your API key, stuff like that. But we're not getting into that yet. So now to test where is it? So that was our get all route. Okay. To test our get student by ID, we're going to skip for now, and I'll explain why. So we're going to do, a post of a new student, and let's go to this info.json file that we created. I basically just did this to show you about JSON. So actually, you know what, let's just copy this straight up, put it in our body here, and see it doesn't give any errors. If I was to delete that, it would give us an error, just like in VS Code. We're going to switch this to post, and we're going to post, it's the same route, so we don't have to change that. So we're going to send, see what we get. Status of 200, which means it's okay, and then we get our JSON data back, which is right here. So we created the new student, including the res.body, which is right here, res.body, which is it's sent. Then we took that new student variable right here, we saved it, then we returned our new student in a JSON format, and that's why we get this down here. And as you can see, we have the date entered, which is the day, it's just a timestamp, an automatically generated ID from MongoDB, the name, and the contact info. You notice it's an object, technically an array, but it's an object of, it gives it an ID also, the email and the student ID that we assigned. Okay, now let's test so that's our post route. Let's go back and test this students by ID, all right, and I'll show you how to do that. So since this is our only record, I mean, I guess we can add a second record in there, whatever. Let's say Andy Johnson, change the email to A Johnson 69, sorry. And we'll say his student ID is 588. It doesn't matter, I'm just making this up. So let's do a post route again. Again, we're just testing, we're not, we're just making sure everything works. So we get our 200 status, and we get our Andy Johnson record with a new ID, A Johnson 69, because I'm hilarious. Let's get all of them again, and let's see. So we got our 200 status. So we got Ted Smith and we got Andy Johnson. So now we got 2 records in there, which is good. Now, to get them by ID, we're going to take this ID that it gives it. Oops. And I'm going to highlight it, select it, copy. And now remember, in our get student by ID route, we added this placeholder, and PHP does a similar thing. If you've ever worked with PHP, where you have a placeholder so that people can't do SQL injections into your forms and stuff. That's more for security. In this case, we're using a placeholder for the ID to add on to the extension of our route. So we do slash, and then we do the ID, just the ID. You don't have to do anything else. And then send. Good. We get our status. Status of 200. Let's see. Let's try to change this to just student. Just make sure. Let's see. Maybe I missed a. Because it should work. Maybe I copied it wrong. Let's see. Let's do this one. Yeah. And then our student ID. And there we go. Okay, I must have just missed one of the letters when I was copying it, or maybe I copied the wrong ID. Okay, anyway, so that's our student. Yeah, maybe that's what I did, because we have an ID inside the contact info. Okay, so, oh, you know what? Let's also do a delete request while we're here. And actually, we can just keep this the same. And we're going to do a delete route. Actually, let me just show you something real quick, because don't forget, in our routes, um, we did console log that error for catching. Yes. Okay, so let's do the delete request. Success true. Okay, great. So it works. Because right here, we found it by the ID, by the request.params.id that was passed in, which is this, the ID, that's passed in to this route. So we found that student by the ID. Then we took that student, passed it in as an argument, and then we did a dot remove, and then a dot. Then this dot remove is the thing that actually deletes it. Student dot remove is the method that deletes it. This is just what we want to do after that. This is just to say, hey, it worked. You know, congratulations or whatever. And this is obviously to catch any errors. Okay, great. So all of our routes work. So I am going to, first of all, clear all these because I always forget and I have like a million of them up there. I'm going to close Postman. So we are basically done with the back end. Let me save all this real quick. So we are basically done with the back end. One thing I wanted to do, now I have a video of how to get started with Create React App, which is basically something that instead of creating all the Webpack, Babel, all the bundlers and stuff to create a React app, we have a tool called Create React App that basically sets all that up for you. So I do have a video for that, but I think I'm just going to do it in here and just show you guys so you don't have to watch a separate video. So we're going to hit Control C or Command C on a Mac. Yes. So we stopped our app. Okay. And we are going to do Create React App. Now, normally you would use npx Create React App, but I can't do that. I'm on a Windows and it doesn't work for me. So I'm going to use yarn Create React App -app, and then we're going to put it into a folder called client, because since this is what the client sees. Yours would just be, instead of yarn, you would just type, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot yarn. You need to do add. Oh, whoops. That's why. Never mind. I'm sorry. That's why it didn't work, because there was no space. App space client. Oh, is it? I think they just changed it. Let me try np. I'll show you. It doesn't work. npx create react app client. Watch, it'll work now. Yeah, of course. Sometimes npx works, sometimes it doesn't. Anyway, so that's what you do. You install npx through npm, and then you install it globally, and then you just do npm I space npx, and then you can do npx create react app, and then the name of your app. Um, in this case, it's not the name of the app, but we're putting it in a separate folder. And then I'm just going to go through cleaning up the Create React App files, because there's some files in there that we don't really need, especially not for this level of the tutorial. It's for a lot of like more advanced, like testing and stuff. Anyway, we don't really need it for this application, so I'll just show you how to clean it up. And like I said, I have a video on that, which I'll link in the description, that shows you how to do it. I'm just going to do it real fast. But if you want to watch a video that's more in depth, I will link it in the description. So it's just, it's just buzzing through all the things, creating folders, and uh, actually it's downloading them. Um, and as you can see, we already have a client file up here already created. It's not, it's just not done yet. So just give it, usually takes less than a minute or so, less than 2 minutes for sure, depending on your connection. So yeah, while we're waiting for that, guys, just want to remind you, if you don't mind, click subscribe or tap it, and then tap the bell icon and select all, so you get all notifications from me. I would appreciate it. This series has probably, for sure, it has one more video dealing with the front end, if not two more. I might break that up into two videos depending on how long it gets. So yeah, and if you have any questions or comments, or you think I'm stupid or whatever, just this is the internet, so I'm sure some people think I'm stupid. Feel free to leave a comment below and let me know. Um, I will link my GitHub in the description, but I don't think I'm going to post the files just yet. Um, I definitely will post them, and I might wait until the video series is all done for that. But if you guys want them now, just leave me a comment, and I will do it right now, including my process that I typed out in Word of how to start creating a React app, or I'm sorry, a Mern Stack app. Okay, so we're all good, and we get this happy hacking stupid thing from React, and here's our client folder. Now these are node modules specifically for the front end. As you can see, there's Babel, a couple of Jest, which is for testing. So let's close this, and then we have down here our node modules for our backend. So, this is kind of the way it is. Our git ignore, which is for, stuff to ignore when you're uploading to GitHub. Yarn lock, don't worry about that. Package, here's our package.json for the front end. Let's see. Here's our, I'm sorry, here, let me go here first. So here's our public folder though. So this is basically should only contain an index.html and a favicon if you want. And I'll get into what those are later on. So I'm going to delete these React logos, this manifest.json, and this robots.txt. We don't need any of that, especially for this, like I said. So, yeah, goodbye. I'll show you guys where to get a nice Favicon Generator. It's a really cool site. I'll show you in the next video where you can basically use font awesome icons and then select a color and then download it, and it gives you a favicon, perfect favicon. You just put it in this folder and then you're good. This is our index.html, as all websites have or should have. Let's change this to student tracker. I'm just deleting these comments because it makes this file look a little more intimidating. I'm going to get rid of these. It brings in your logo for your Apple Touch icon. We don't really need that. This is that manifest.json file that I deleted. You don't really need this. Delete this comment. And now this, you don't need this either. Yeah, okay. So this is our title, and this right here, this is where React goes into. You have a single div, and it with an ID of root, which is where in this div is where all of your React JavaScript files are displayed, and that's just the way React works. It's basically a single page application. Now, of course, you could have more than one page that people click to, but it's all run through this index.html because it's um, controlled from here. Even I'm sorry, it's shown through here, but it's controlled through what we're going to get into next. So let's go in here. So that was our public folder, so I'm going to close that. I'll save this, I guess, since I made some changes to it. Yeah, save. Okay, so now we have our app CSS, and this is like the main CSS for the entire application. I'm actually going to select all this and delete it because we're going to create our own. Then we have app.js. Now, you know what? Let me close this because we're not ready for that yet. I'm going to take this app.test.js, this, oops, that, why is that? This service worker, setup test. I'll keep the git ignore, even though we're not really going to use it. We'll get rid of all those. Now let's come back to this app.js. This is our file. You know, this is where it all begins. This is the actual application file where we start. I'm going to get rid of this. Save all, and see it's a functional component, and we're going to be working with functional components and React hooks for this project. Okay, so I just deleted that, and it's a function. Oh, let me get rid of this first, actually. Also, this is a bare bones, obviously, but this is it. This is your main application file. Index.css. You can keep this. I usually leave it. It doesn't really matter. Whoops. Just open that again. Let me close these so it's not so confusing. And then index.js. I'm going to get rid of this bottom for that service worker. Again, this service worker. Yes. And we're importing React DOM. Now this, if you'll notice, this is our React DOM.render file. And this is what shows our I'm sorry, this is what links our app.js file and allows it to be displayed in our index.html file. As you can see, get element by ID and root, which is the name of that div here in our main index.html file. Okay, and I think that's all. Okay, so go ahead and get to that point. I'll save all this. And that's it. In the next video, we're going to set up concurrently so we can run both our backend server and our front end application at the same time on different ports. So our backend is going to be on 5,000, our front end will be 3,000 by default, and that's what I'm going to leave it at. Normally, you can't run two things on two different ports at the same time, so we need to use something called concurrently, and I'll show you how to set that up because there's a few things. It's not too bad. And then we're going to dive into our front end, creating our display for showing our students, adding a student, searching a student by ID, and deleting a student. Yeah. All right. So again, subscribe, like, and comment. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys watching. Sincerely, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. See ya.